Mr. Kanchan Gupta, Senior Advisor to the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Government of India, joins us on the broadcast. He was back then OSD to Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So we've just spoken to people who were physically present on the hijacked plane, but we now bring you a perspective of someone who was watching what was happening. Mr. Gupta, thank you so much for joining us. There is a lot of debate over the IC814 hijacking and the response of the Vajpayee government. Of course, hindsight is always 2020, sir, but were 7 days truly required to secure the release of the passengers?
Yes, you have to understand the circumstances in which we were working. This was 1999. There were UN sanctions on the Taliban. No country had diplomatic relations with them. They were totally isolated. And so we did not have, via media, a third party to interlocute for us. By the time we were able to establish contact with the hijackers and the Taliban through a UN intermediary, some considerable amount of time had passed. But once we were able to establish contact and the negotiations began, and then they started placing their demands, and there were negotiations on those demands, and that's how it went, back and forth, back and forth. Otherwise, we would have ended up striking a very bad deal. So we had twofold purposes. One, to ensure that nothing happened to the passengers. There were, even after 27 people, or 26 plus one person who had been killed by the hijackers, even after they were deboarded
Yes.
In Dubai, we still had about close to 175 passengers and crew on board. And to ensure their safety, their security was the primary objective. And keeping that in mind, we had to also factor in that no agreement should be entered into that was impossible to keep. So all these things took time, and frankly, I think it was all wrapped up within 5 days. And we had some very brilliant senior officers on the ground in Kandahar who had been flown in. Mr. Vivek Karju was one of them.
Yes.
We also had Mr. Dogal there. And that's how it happened. And I think we cracked it in less than 5 days. And then it was a question of logistics.
Mr. Gupta, what really then was the confusion and chaos that allowed the hijacked plane to take off from Amritsar? Because, I mean, the plane landed in India and was then taken to multiple destinations. But you've also written about there being some sort of bureaucratic confusion.
I don't understand, everybody keeps on talking about Amritsar. Does anybody even know the complexities of handling a hijack situation? Here is a plane with almost 200 people on board. It was jam-packed. It was a full flight. And the hijackers were desperate. In no mood to land in Amritsar and talk to the government. And if we had somehow managed to place some sort of a barrier in the path of the aircraft, I'm pretty sure the hijackers would have forced the pilot to start the plane and ram it into the barrier. There would have been a catastrophic disaster after that. We would have lost everybody. Now, I'm not bothered with whether the hijackers would have died in the process. I don't think they were particularly bothered either. Or whether, I don't think the ISI and Pakistan were particularly bothered that in such a situation their people would have died. But we were pretty bothered because we had Indian citizens on board, and saving their lives was the primary objective.
All right, Mr. Gupta, what further can you also tell us about the efforts of then Foreign Affairs Minister, Mr. Jaswant Singh?
Jaswant Singh ji played a very major role. He had an army background, so he understood tactics and strategy in a situation like this. And finally, he traveled to Kandahar to ensure that all the all the hostages were freed and no harm was done to them at the last minute. So it was a very brave thing of him to do, and he did it.
Okay, Mr. Gupta, before we let you go, sir, one last question. Do you think India's stance and policy on terrorism and terrorist harboring nations has evolved to where it needs to be under the present government?
Yeah, that's why you don't have spectacular terrorist attack like we have seen during Pulwama, and before that in Mumbai when there was a carnage, and the UPA and the Congress say that the UPA government was a great failure because Bombay happened. And will the Congress then accept that yes, it was a great failure? So the issue is not success or failure. It is that any country, not only India, any country will continue to face national challenges. If it is not an act of terrorism, it will be an act of natural disaster. It will be something else. It will be an accident, a factory accident, like it happened in Bhopal. So why did Rahul Gandhi's daddy Rajiv Gandhi was the prime minister when Bhopal happened? So shall we say that it was the grand failure of Rajiv Gandhi that Bhopal happened? So we should rise above party politics, from partisan politics, and take a united stand on situations that impact the entire nation, that impact national security, and we should deal with it from a non-party, non-political perspective.
Okay.
And that is the only point which needs to be repeated again and again, because you cannot reduce everything to politics, and you cannot reduce every event into a television serial like they have done with IC814.
Okay, all right, Mr. Kanchan Gupta, fair enough. Thank you so much, sir.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.